What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fran Lung Show. Today we're going to spend some time talking about the evolution of freestanding handstand holds in elite competitions. So recently, 2024, the Fittest Experience, they had an event to get your longest freestanding handstand hold. So the winners of that event were Tracy Johnson on the women's side, 2 minutes and 11 seconds, and Bill Leahy on the men's side, minute 30 even. So congratulations for them to that win. But let's kind of reflect a little bit in the past and just where we have come from this event or this style of event. Okay, going back in time, first time we saw this in an elite CrossFit competition was the 2020 CrossFit Games online portion, event 6, max freestanding handstand hold. So in that event, athletes had 20 minutes to try as many attempts as they want to find their max length hold. So interesting to see as many attempts as possible, 20 minutes. Those are important pieces of detail for the future. But in this event, you had Katrin Davidsdottir. She won 2 minutes and 54 seconds upside down in her longest hold possible. That was a whopping 41 seconds above Carrie Pierce, who finished second. No slouch of a gymnast herself. And in third place, Daniel Brandon was 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So going back in the sport of CrossFit, those are kind of the who's who of gymnastic events, finishing 1, 2, 3. But again, Davidsdottir time really stands out at 2 minutes and 54 seconds, way ahead of the field. On the men's side, Noah Olson took it. He was 1 minute 37 seconds. Matt Frazier, 1:35 in second, and Sam Quant kind of sneaking in third at 1 minute 32. At the time, the freestanding holds was a new movement, but just kind of impressive to see CrossFit Games athletes adapt to something that's thrown their way. On the women's side, you had the top 24 athletes make it longer than a minute, while on the men's side, 20 out of 30 athletes. So really interesting to see, but again, that is our ground zero for the max handstand holds. Next up, from a competition standpoint, we saw it at 2023 Wodapalooza. This was a part B, basically a minute after a max clean and jerk event. Then athletes also had to do the max handstand on parallel bars, and they only had one attempt. So in terms of degree of difficulty, 3, 4, 5, 10 times higher than just giving yourself 20 minutes in your gym. So they were lined up, I think 8 to 10 athletes across, parallel, that's max clean and jerks ended, minute break, then you had 10 seconds to kick up, only one attempt to go there. The winners of the Wodapalooza event, you got Rebecca Fuselier, she was 1 minute 27, and on the men's side, Cole Grayshaber, 1 minute 28. So again, just due to the degree of difficulty and just a single attempt, these are incredibly impressive holds in their own right. Having Cole Grayshaber, that time would have finished 4th at the 2020 CrossFit Games, even with his one attempt on parallel. And even from a comparison standpoint, so you had Danny Spiegel at the 2020 CrossFit Games, her hold length was 1:31, and then at Wodapalooza in 2023, it was 1 minute 6. So again, like 2/3 of the length at Wodapalooza. So degree of difficulty certainly higher in that regard. And then on the men's side, Patrick Vellner, he did 1:19 at the 2020 Games and then 52 seconds at Wodapalooza. So when you look at Vellner and Spiegel's times between the two events, it really highlights just the degree of difficulty that we see from some of the best athletes in the sport, and then highlights just how good Grayshaber time and Fuselier's time was in comparison to the evolution of the hold. So again, Grayshaber would have finished 4th with his time at the 2020 Games, and Fuselier would have been 11th place that way. So impressive to see those performances. And then the third up, 2024 Fittest Experience. So athletes had 3 minutes to establish their max length hold. So again, like as many attempts as they wanted, but they only had that 3-minute window. Again, compared to in 2020 where they had 20 minutes, again, significantly shorter length of time. And then when we look at the field that went to the Fittest Experience, I'm kind of that 4th level of CrossFit competition. So if I were to rank CrossFit competitions in terms of athletes that go, you kind of got the CrossFit Games and Rogue. They're really the best of the best. Next up, you kind of got Wodapalooza, maybe Dubai at times, and semifinals. Third tier, got Madrid Championships, this year's Dubai, where there's a handful of game athletes, mostly semifinals, and then kind of brings us to that fourth level of competition. Fittest Experience this year, a couple past games athletes, Cindy McLishan and Abigail Dommett. About a quarter of the field was semi-finalists from this past year. So again, a very elite competition. Everybody who's there is, the fittest person in their gym, fittest person in their city. So definitely, still an elite competition, but not generally on that same level as a Wodapalooza or the games by any means. So when you look at the caliber of athlete that is at the Fittest Experience, it's interesting to see just, how their times relate to the best of the best from 3.5 years earlier. So on the men's side, you had Bill Leahy, 130. That would have been good enough for fourth at the CrossFit Games in 2020. Travis Moore and Artis Stearns, they also would have been good for top 10 at the CrossFit Games. So those are the top three men's finishers. Then on the women's side, Tracy Johnson, she would have finished fourth as well at the 2020 CrossFit Games with that time. Again, behind some of the best gymnasts ever in the sport of CrossFit, with David's daughter Pierce and Daniel Brandon ahead of her. So impressive. And then Samantha Pugh and Chloe Carano, they finished second and third respectively in the Fittest Experience. So their times also would have been good for top 10 at the 2020 CrossFit Games. So again, just seeing how these athletes, a few tiers down from a competition level, are comparing to the best in the world from 3.5 years earlier. It's very interesting to see just that trajectory of a movement like handstand holds in such a short period of time. And then when you add in kind of the extra pressure that went into, the Wodapalooza event and the Fittest Experience event, Fittest Experience, they had only 3 minutes. So not a whole lot of time to do a second attempt if your first one's over a minute versus 20 minutes total time at the 2020 CrossFit Games. So again, much shorter time frame, much less room for error, but these athletes are still top of the top compared to the best in the world 3.5 years ago. So interesting to see a movement like that evolve over the past couple of years. So with that, hit subscribe, hit like, appreciate if you do follow that along. Want more bite-sized pieces of stats, check us out on Instagram at Franlung Analytics. At any time you want to dig up any stats on your favorite athletes, go to franlung.com. We have details from over 180 elite competitions and 7,000 athletes. So any stat that you would want for your favorite athletes out there, chances are we got it. So with that, have a great day. Take care.